First, what does climate change mean?
Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns, primarily driven by human activities since the 1800s. Burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas releases greenhouse gases, which trap heat in the atmosphere and raise global temperatures. This warming effect disrupts ecosystems, alters weather patterns, and affects human livelihoods.
How has climate change impacted the global?
The Earth's air, water, and land are interconnected with the climate. Even a slight increase in global temperatures can cause extreme weather events, like droughts, floods, and heat waves, threatening crops, wildlife, and communities. According to the IPCC's sixth assessment report, global temperatures could rise by 1.0 degrees Celsius to 5.7 degrees Celsius by the century's end, with sea levels expected to increase by 0.32 to 1.01 meters, endangering coastal regions and ecosystems.
Why are the Malaysia ecosystems are important? Let's take a look.
Malaysia is a megadiverse country with diverse ecosystems, from dipterocarp and montane forests to vital coastal mangroves and coral reefs. It boasts around 15,000 species of vascular plants and a rich array of wildlife, including 306 mammals, 742 birds, 654 amphibians, 506 reptiles, and over 2,000 freshwater and marine fish species.
Now, let us delve into impacts of climate change on different ecosystems, such as rainforests, mangroves, coral reefs, and peatlands.
In Malaysia, the rainforests, including central forest spine, are facing increasing temperatures and rainfall patterns. This disturbs wildlife habitat and affects tree growth. For example, this transformation endangered species, such as the Malayan tiger, by disrupting their habitats and reducing biodiversity. So, restoring corridors is the goal of conservation projects, such as Malaysia's CFS Master Plan, which strives to strike a balance between biodiversity conservation with development priorities. Next, Malaysia's mangrove ecosystems, vital for protecting against coastal flooding and erosion, are threatened by rising sea levels. Severe erosion, especially in areas like Perak's Pantai Ban and Pahang's Pekan, puts coastal habitats and communities at risk. According to studies, if the protections are not taken, Malaysia may lose about 1,350 kilometers of its coastline by 2050. Mangroves, which can maintain shorelines and act as a storm buffer, are becoming more and more fragile because of climate change. Coral reefs in Malaysia, especially around Sabah's Saipadan and the Coral Triangle, face severe threats from climate change. Ocean warming leads to widespread coral bleaching, disrupting the symbiotic relationship between corals and algae, causing the algae to be expelled and corals to lose their color. This weakens corals, increasing their risk of disease and death, which in turn affects marine biodiversity and ecosystems reliant on healthy reefs. Malaysia's peatlands, particularly in Sarawak and Sabah, are crucial carbon storage systems, but are increasingly vulnerable to peat fires, to rising temperatures and drier conditions. Climate change intensifies these risks, making peatlands more flammable. Once ignited, peat fires can burn for weeks, releasing large amounts of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, significantly contributing to global warming.
Climate change is also affecting livelihoods, especially in sectors like tourism, agriculture, and fisheries.
The Orang Asli and other cultural groups in Malaysia rely on natural resources for their home, food, and medicine. Ecosystem degradation from deforestation and biodiversity loss threatens their livelihoods and traditions. Forest loss disrupts their customs and access to essential resources, reducing their ability to adapt to environmental changes that impact their social and economic well-being. Deforestation and climate change are also threatened essential ecosystem services like soil fertility and water availability, impacting Malaysia's agriculture sector. Altered rainfall patterns, soil degradation, and increased pests reduce crop yields, posing risks to food security and the sector's financial viability. Key crops like palm oil and rubber, vital to Malaysia's economy, are especially vulnerable. The Malaysian government, through its national policy on biological diversity, highlights concerns over sustainable agriculture, as disruptions to ecosystems could lead to economic setbacks, higher costs, and reduced yields. Overfishing, coastal pollution, and the degradation of coral reefs and mangroves are depleting fish populations in Malaysian seas, threatening the livelihoods of local fishing communities. This decline jeopardizes food security, employment, and the cultural traditions of those who rely on fisheries as their primary protein source. The loss of vital habitats like mangroves, essential for fish breeding, further endangers marine biodiversity and the fishing industry's economic stability. Malaysia's beaches, coral reefs, and verdant rainforests are among its natural features, which are major contributors to the country's tourist sector. However, climate change, such as fire forest and coral bleaching, reduces Malaysia's attraction as an ecotourism destination and has a direct effect on employment and tourism-related income. For instance, fire forests impact rainforest ecotourism, while coral bleaching brought on by rising waters impacts the diving business.
Malaysia government, also known as NGO, and local community are showing their effort to protect the ecosystem. So let's take a look.
WWF highlights that deforestation contributes to 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions, driving ecosystem and species loss. Curbing deforestation is crucial to preventing severe climate change impacts. To limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, we must reduce emissions by at least 50% within the next decade. Everyone has a role in adopting sustainable behaviors to fight climate change. Next, TRC aims to reconnect Malaysia's fragmented forests by reforesting degraded areas with native trees, supporting national conservation efforts like the Heart of Borneo initiative. The tropical rainforest living collections focus on protecting endangered plant species by collecting, germinating, and replanting seeds to restore biodiversity. Additionally, Reef Check Malaysia is part of the worldwide Reef Check network. They monitor over 300 coral reefs annually around the country and are actively involved in reef management and conservation efforts. Reef Check Malaysia focuses on 4 core programs, which is eco-action, science, advocacy, and management that work together to promote coral reef conservation and management across Malaysia. Call to action. First, spread the word. Encourage your friends, family, and colleagues to reduce carbon emissions. Join global movements like Count Us In, aiming to inspire 1 billion people to take climate action, potentially cutting 20% of global carbon emissions. Second, transform your transport. Transport contributes to about 25% of greenhouse gas emissions. Leave your car at home and walk, cycle, or use public transport whenever possible. Consider carpooling or switching to an electric vehicle to reduce emissions. Limit long-haul flights to minimize your carbon footprint. Third, shop local and buy sustainable. Reduce your food's carbon footprint by buying local, seasonal produce, supporting small businesses, and cutting transport emissions. Sustainable agriculture is more energy efficient and eco-friendly. Try growing your own fruits, vegetables, or herbs, even on a balcony or windowsill. Fourth, plant trees. Deforestation contributes to 25% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Help reverse this trend by planting trees, either on your own or through initiatives like Plant for the Planet, which supports global tree planting efforts.
Through this video, you can understand the knowledge of climate change and the impact on us. So let's protect our home, protect the environment.